Gentlemen, always great to have you along for this one. Really looking forward to this one, episode 5. Hey, Warne, I'm going to come to you first because 7 players, Aussie superstars, have pulled out of the tour to the West Indies and also Bangladesh. Glenn Maxwell's pulled out, but has he pulled out of your UK 100-ball tournament in your team?
Yeah, g'day, Vaughan, Junior, BJ, Brendan, Mark, Michael. Look, yeah, unfortunately, Glenn Maxwell has pulled out of the 100. We were really excited to get him when we got him in the draft. And we're pretty excited to get him to see the way he plays. We know he's a match winner and we're excited to have him. But unfortunately, he's pulled out of that and we've now replaced him with Josh Inglis from Western Australia. So we're lucky to have him.
Well, he'd have to pull out, wouldn't he, Junior? Because you can't have Aussie stars pulling out of the West Indies, Bangladesh, and then going and playing the UK. And I'm wondering what's going to happen with the IPL. Surely they can't be playing in that tournament come September now.
Well, look, I know it's tough with bubble and quarantine and multiple players doing these quarantine throughout the year, but country has got to take priority over franchise cricket. That's the simple answer. And Glenn Maxwell, it wouldn't have been possible for him to play in the 100 tournament because he's pulled out of the Caribbean. They're both on at the same time. So, you know, he's made the right decision there. But, you know, your country has got to be the priority for any player.
Michael Vaughan, it's getting to the stage where IPL, I don't know if it's going to go ahead. They're saying it will go ahead in the UAE. But certainly if you've got players playing and missing tours, they can't go to the IPL.
No, you wouldn't have thought so. I mean, I think the seed has been sown for a few years where, you know, players have picked and choose. And I think the boards have allowed them to. I mean, England just recently were going to allow their players to stay at the IPL rather than play a test match against New Zealand at Lords. I know that those 2 test matches weren't in the Future Tours programme, but, you know, I think they're setting a precedent here. Football in the UK pretty much is the Premier League, and then every 2 years the players want to play for their country because there's a Euros or a World Cup. Cricket's going down that channel. You know, it's got to be very, very careful. I do think it's down to the boards of all these national teams to be stronger. They've got to be stronger with the players. And if they want international cricket in 20, 30 years' time to still be the pinnacle, which it is now, and I hope it continues that way, they've got to be stronger with the players to not allow these franchises to take them. I know there's a huge amount of money and we have to be careful about, you know, the amounts of money that these players can earn, and they've got a great carrot to be able to do so. But, you know, international cricket has to stay at number 1. If they're not careful, it will end up like the Premier League football where players pick and choose. As soon as the lesser teams are playing and I guess friendly matches, they pull out of games and they just turn up for the tournaments. And I guess I'm not being disrespectful to some of the countries, but some of these tours aren't quite as pinnacle as some others, and players will pick and choose which tours they're going to go on if they're not careful.
Shane, it's going to be difficult though, isn't it? I mean, the IPL is going to go ahead and it's going to leak a few players out of international duties in other countries.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic to talk about. I think it's, you know, people talk about difficult and things. I think it's pretty simple. I don't begrudge the players getting the money they have. It's fantastic. And if they want to take the money, take the money. But if you want to play cricket for your country and you choose IPL over your country, well, then maybe you have to be punished for a little bit for doing, not punished, that's the wrong word. Maybe then you have to choose because maybe it's worth not picking those guys then. And then, because otherwise, this is going to happen. People are going to rest and miss test matches and miss representing their country to go and play for money. Now, as I said, I do not begrudge. And, you know, it's pretty hard. If someone says, here's $3 million or go away over to somewhere and play for a month and be away for 6 weeks from your family, you know, and a shorter term in IPL, it's a very easy decision to take that money. But if you value yourself as a cricketer and want to test yourself against the best, there's only one spot to do it, and that's at international cricket, and whatever form that is, but especially Test cricket. And if you want to choose the money for IPL, that's fine, no problem. But you might have to wait a few Test matches and you might go down a few rungs no matter how good you are, and because there's always someone that can replace you.
Well, I think Trevor Holmes has said that, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He made a statement there when the squads were announced that, you know, he's going to be loyal to players that do choose to play for Australia.
And he should be.
Yeah, no, exactly right. So I think you're going to see that anyway.
I wonder if that's also going to put pressure on a bit like Justin Langer. His contract's due at the end of this Ashes summers coming up. He can't always pick players out of this West Indies and Bangladesh tour. It's based on results. I mean, does he come under a bit of pressure going, well, hang on, I can't even pick the players I want to pick, and all of a sudden I'm being judged at the end of this Ashes series with his contract?
Yeah, well, he'd love to have his full-strength team in every tournament that Australia play, but reality is it's not going to happen, and Australia do have the depth to cover that. So, Yeah, the Justin Langer issue is going to raise its head, I guess, because it has during the winter with the reviews from players and an independent body. But he's going to be there till the end of the summer. He needs to be judged on the T20 World Cup and what happens with the Ashes this summer. And once that's done and dusted, then we judge Justin Langer.
Michael Vaughan, there's been comments about, Justin Langer and the players sort of coming out saying, it's been a little bit tricky in the change room. I mean, are you in favour of a review after every summer and asking the players what they think of the coach?
I mean, the world's gone nuts, hasn't it? I mean, I honestly don't understand all these kind of... it's like asking a Q&A, isn't it, at the end of every series, do you like the coach? I mean, come on. It's all about the results. It's about results on the pitch. Unfortunately for Australia, the results didn't go the way that they would liked. Once that happens, obviously in this era, the coach comes under a little bit more pressure, as does the captain, as does the players in the team. What frustrates me a little bit about cricket these days is that we kind of forget to talk about the players. It's always someone else that's to blame. It's either rotation, it's the coach, it's the captain's decision. If you actually look at the players, it's generally the players that haven't performed. And I think there's always an excuse, if you want to use it as a player, that you could blame a coach who's said something to you that you didn't quite like. You know what? Get over it. Get yourself ready. Get yourself ready to play. It's down to you as an individual to perform. And if you can't, ultimately, you haven't played well enough, and that contributes to the team failing. But I do think there's too much of a finger-pointing culture of blame on particularly coaches, captains. Players have got to stand up and perform, and it's very, very easy to kind of pass the buck and make a few excuses.
Warne, what about that? Is it results-driven, do you think, fair enough for the coach, or should we just players on results?
Well, it's pretty, the coach can't... I mean, the coach is there to sort of prepare the players the best way they possibly can. Tactically, the way they play the game, the style of play, and how they play. Like, there's no disgrace in playing well and losing. I think the results come into it, but it's pretty hard to blame the coach for the results unless their style of play, the way they're playing, the players aren't improving under his job as the head coach. Then you have to have a look at that. There's many factors that come in it, not just results. But just thinking about that, like at the end of each summer, imagine asking
you about John Buchanan. What about you with John Buchanan, Warne?
That's what I'm thinking. Like, imagine if the boss of Cricket Australia comes and said, "What do you think about John Buchanan?" I said, "What's he still doing here? Sack him."
Out of 10, what would you have given him? Out of 10, what would you have given him?
I would have given him I don't think we can say this is a family show, Jim.